If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But here we are. We're back in business. You can hear me okay?
Yep, I got you.
All right, cool. I love remote podcasting. It's so much fun. I'm having a blast. It always works great. There's never any problems at all. We haven't been trying to make this work for 18 minutes now. Okay, so I just noticed you have an avocado on your hat.
I do, yes.
Why do you have an avocado on your hat?
So we farm about 1,500 acres of avocados. We produce probably in the range of 7 million pounds a year on average. We have a pretty long family heritage of farming them, so we kind of integrated it in, and who doesn't like a good avocado?
I just had an avocado this morning. Can you turn him down a little bit? He's a little loud. I had half an avocado this morning, but I don't know where it came from. It might be a Mexican avocado. I don't know if it was a California avocado.
Where you are in Tennessee, most likely, yeah. Most of California fruit stays west of the Rockies.
Is that right?
Yeah. So Chipotle is actually one of the bigger consumers of California avocados. They love them. Other than that, you kind of have to go to a specialty retailer. My girlfriend's listening in the other room, and she's probably cringing because I'm butchering it. She works for marketing for a global avocado company, so she would probably know more about where things end up versus me. I just want to get it in the bin, put it on the truck, and get a check.
Yeah, you're just the mere avocado farmer. You're not in charge of making sure they go where they need to go.
Nope,
so
luckily not.
Your family is in farming then, and your family's always been in farming.
Correct. Yes, I'm the sixth generation.
Sixth?
Sixth. Yep.
Dude, I couldn't even tell you what my great grandfather did for work. I have not even the faintest idea.
Yeah, so
and that's
started.
I couldn't even tell you 5 or 6.
Started down in the greater Los Angeles, Orange County area, and they migrated up to Santa Barbara when land values were, everyone thought Santa Barbara was poor man's land, and now it's kind of obviously gone the extreme opposite of that. But so here we are, just farming on the coast of California, some avocados and lemons and oranges, and having a great time doing it, and got into some contracting.
So you grew up around the tree. You grew up around the tree farm, as we discussed in the previous recording that didn't record. And you graduate high school at 17, and you start to get into the contracting space.
Yeah, so I was working for a large-scale commercial land clearing outfit. Was having a blast doing it. We were running around. He was based actually out of the San Luis area, but he did a lot of work down in LA, Ventura County, San Luis. So we were traveling up and down the freeway. I was having a blast, learning a lot. Never knew these giant tree eating machines even existed. I thought, some, 1 in a million tractor on YouTube. I'd never see it. Ended up working with it. That was fun. Relationship fell apart. Was kind of a hokey operation. Now that I've lived a little bit longer and seen how things should be and how things shouldn't be. So then I left there and went to work for a local general engineering contractor that specialized in bridges and pipelines and whatnot for public works projects. And that was a lot of fun. Learned a lot there. And then was just kind of thinking of like, my dream's always been to do my own thing and kind of want to figure out how to do it, and just had an opportunity to pick up a job and went from there, and it just kind of kept snowballing. So here I am almost 12 years later and still going at it.
So how old were you when you started officially?
When I started officially getting my own work, I was about 19 was when I started bidding my own work.
Damn, dude.
So I had my first business at 15 years old, selling firewood to the state campgrounds there on the beach.
Dang. Where did the wood come from?
So all the ranches my dad worked on, they would, trim the trees and have all this wood stacked up. They never knew what to do with it. And they were like, if you want it, you can have it. Just get it out of here. Okay, cool.
Would you
advertise on Craigslist? And that was it.
Like with a chainsaw? Would you cut it up with a chainsaw, or how would you do that? Did you have equipment?
So I had a log splitter. The best part was they had to cut it up so that their field staff could move it and pile it. So it was already cut up into firewood length. All I had to do is split it, throw it in a trailer, and I got to borrow a farm tractor from my dad, and I was 15 years old, driving through downtown with a trailer behind a farm tractor and dumping it off at the campgrounds, people's houses, whatever.
Imagine that. I grew up in Arizona, and the market for firewood in Arizona is pretty niche. It's a pretty small business, and it'll be like a bag of firewood, 3 or 4 shitty pieces of firewood for $12.99 or whatever at the grocery store. The stuff just sucks. But it's like for Christmas morning when it's 67 degrees outside and everybody's like, "Ooh, yeah, it's Christmas morning. We need a fire. This is going to be awesome." But other than that, there's no market for firewood. But I was in Providence, Rhode Island last week with JR Agro. They're a land clearing contractor, and they do 3,000 cords of firewood a year through their firewood operation, and it was absolutely wild. They had a whole firewood machine where they just feed full logs into, and it cuts them to length, splits them, it puts it through a trommel to get any of the little bits off, and then it spits it out the other end. A loader comes and grabs it, throws it in a pile, and there they are. They have endless amounts of firewood.
It's a scale that's, I mean, even where I'm at, Santa Barbara and Central Coast, it doesn't get that cold over here for very long. So I'm kind of probably more with you that's wild how much firewood people go through on the East Coast.
Yeah, well, yeah, firewood for the beach in Santa Barbara. Everybody's like, "Oh yeah, we're camping on the beach. Of course we need a fire, because what's camping without a fire?" Yeah. But it's like 78 degrees.
Because we're still in, tank tops and swim trunks at 10 o'clock at night. Really need that fire.
Yeah. Good grief.
Yeah.
All right. So you started a business. You started a contracting business. How'd you get equipment when you started?
Begged, borrowed, and stole without the actual stealing. So I rented from Quinn Cat when they would rent to me, United Rentals. There was a rental center here that was a local one that got bought out by Sunbelt, kind of a larger, I'm sure you know who they are with their lime green everything, but rented from them. And I ended up using a hand feed wood chipper for all my projects. And then I was just obsessed with Google and YouTube, and I found a guy in the greater LA area that had a bunch of grinders. And I reached out to him and kind of told him my story. I had a falling out with my old boss, blah, blah, blah. Turns out he knew my old boss. They had a strong hatred for each other.
Good.
And the guy's like, "Sick, man. I want to help you out. That'd be cool. You want to rent some stuff?" I was like, "Yeah, for sure." So he started renting me a grinder, and then that's kind of, I used his for 3-4 years, maybe 5, and then finally kind of started getting enough name and workload that was able to take a stab and buy the first one. So that was a pretty big move.
It's funny how you can go rent an excavator before you can technically rent a car.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, and they'll truck it to you, drop it off, whatever. What do you want?
Yeah.
3 tractors? Sure. Cool. You got it. And don't sign the paperwork until, a driver shows up and just chicken scratch on it and good to go.
Oh, it's wild. Yeah. Well, when I bought a machine, we've rented equipment too, but when I bought a machine, I'm like, "Are you guys going to need me to pay for this at some point?" Like they're just like, "Here's your machine." And I'm sitting around like, do I need to sign something for it, or are you going to take my money? Like, how this is really how you guys do it? And it is the easiest process in the world. And yet you go try to buy a $13,000 used Nissan Altima, and it is a full day of paperwork and banking and all kinds of rules before they would ever even think about giving you the key. And then if you go to rent a Nissan Altima, no. You can't be less than 25 years old. It doesn't make any sense at all. But here's your $500,000 excavator. No questions asked, for sure. Go do whatever you want.
Yeah, go take it and do whatever you want with it. We're not going to come check on you. No worries. Just call us when you're done. No big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. They don't even ask you what you're using the rented machine for. They're just like, "Oh, okay, you need an excavator?"
Or not even like, "Hey, do you know how to check the oil?" No?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Do you know how to grease it? Nope. Okay, cool. Sounds good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why you don't buy rental machines at auction. You got to be careful of those.
Yeah. Used equipment's slippery slope for sure.
So did you start out in the contracting space? Were you clearing land then if you had a chipper?
So I was clearing land, grading people's roads, putting in drain lines, digging trenches for pipes, stacking rock up, sorting rock. I mean, it was literally spreading mulch. If someone had a job and was like, "Hey man, can you come look at it?" For sure. Absolutely. I'm I'm all in. It was kind of anything and everything I could do to stay busy. Um, and then as time grew on and I kind of started getting more work geared towards land clearing and tree removal, and I kind of was buying an attachment here for a skid steer because I could buy the attachment, rent someone's skid steer. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of play it like that. I kind of realized, okay, I'm getting too specialized to have these attachments, this equipment sitting to go rent a mini excavator to dig 6,000 feet of trench for water line for this guy. Like it doesn't work like that anymore. So actually now one of my biggest clients, I actually had to flake on him last minute when I was like 20 years old, and he was pretty pissed, but we got over it and things are all good now. I do all of his grinding work and whatnot, but that was kind of when I really realized, like, I cannot park all of my specialized grinding stuff to go dig a trench for $100 an hour. It doesn't work.
What's the need for all the land clearing out there? Because is it that dense?
So no, we're pretty developed on all the areas that you can develop here. So there's not a whole lot of clearing for new development unless it's ag land coming out. So tree crops have a life cycle to get rotated, similar like what Josh McCahill was talking about on your other podcast.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we're rotating crops out. We'll clear out old trees for new homes, like we're going to be doing down with probably for turf to do some utilities and whatnot. But we do that. We do a lot of golf course renovation projects, so those are always pretty fun. And then we do a lot of wildfire and natural disaster cleanup and mitigation work. So that's probably one of our bigger sectors of work is all that stuff. So I think we just finished up our last fire cleanup from a fire that happened 3 years ago. And it's kept us busy for 3 years cleaning up after that one. So.
Yeah, I visited that project shortly after it had happened, the fire, like Malibu area. Is that the one?
Mm-hmm.
Like the big one that came through
so
there a
we
few years
did
ago?
some there. Yeah, ripped, just straight through Malibu in one night or something.
Yeah. It was gnarly. That
was an interesting one.
Yeah, it was so weird because it ripped through Malibu, but then a lot of the damage was caused by the embers falling on houses. So it was like you drive down this neighborhood street, these huge houses, and you'd have nothing going on, and then all of a sudden, burned house. Huge mansion up on the hill overlooking the Pacific Ocean, completely burned out. And then the next one's perfectly fine. And then the next one's completely burned out. There was no rhyme or reason to what houses and what things were damaged. It was completely random.
Oh yeah, and it really is something you can't wrap your head around until you see it the first time. You go, what happened here?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the craziest thing. So yeah, we've done a lot of natural disaster cleanup. There was a big debris flow 2 years ago in Montecito.
Oh yeah,
took out. I don't know if you ever heard about that one, but that was a big one. That one kept us busy for a long time.
How do you get on?
Long time.
How do you get on an emergency job like that? Who pays you? How do you bid it?
So we did certain sectors were for a county that we work for. Others were for cities. Certain sectors of it were for Caltrans. So that was a super fun one, navigating them and all their nuances. To be honest, all of it happened because we're one of very few people with these grinders running around this area. There's only a couple other guys. So it happened I was doing a private project literally right on the side of the freeway. Our phone number's on the machine. And on a Sunday morning, I got a phone call from someone like, hey, will you rent this thing to me? Like, no, I don't rent it, but we're for hire. Like, can I ask who you are? Oh, I'm so-and-so, and I'm the director of Caltrans in this region, and we have a lot of work. Oh, okay, cool. Let's figure it out. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And then, I guess, I don't know. Just to be honest, I've never advertised for it. It all kind of came organically. And it was one of those things I was reflecting on last year. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like that it just happened like that. So
is the grinder, is it a tub grinder or what kind of grinder is it?
It's a horizontal grinder. So it's made by Peterson Pacific, now an Aztec company up in Oregon. It's pretty good size, weighs just about 100,000 pounds, 1,000 horsepower. It eats a lot of stuff, including itself.
So yeah, they're terrible to maintain, but the way it works is you basically feed trees in one end with a excavator or something like that, and then it shoots it out the other end in chips.
Yeah, out, a conveyor belt hanging off the back and stacks up a big, nice pile of mulch and chips. And then those go through to various different sectors. Ag just kind of mix them on the ground. We do a lot of work for municipalities and waste handlers, and they actually process it back into landscape products. So we do a lot of that stuff. We don't do too much hog fuel for cogen plants or anything like that. It's mostly landscape product or just waste reduction that gets left on top of the ground as ground cover. So, but yeah, pretty crude process. Feed it in, and out comes mulch.
They in like the east, for example, where it's really wet, you can just burn everything, which is the preferred method. But California, they don't really allow you to burn anymore, do they?
So Central Valley, where kind of probably most of the media on Instagram or whatnot is about these grinders. Yeah, they're actually outlawing burning. You can still do it here on the coast, but it's increasingly difficult. They don't like to write the permits. The neighbors freak out. There's a huge lag time. You got to let the crop dry out, so it's easier and usually cheaper when you look at what the land value is to have it sitting there idle until you can burn all this crap. It's usually cheaper. Just grind it, get on with the project, get moving. So
do you do a lot of farming? A lot of tree removal?
Tons of it. Yeah. I don't know how to quantify it really. Most of our work is looked at in terms of the acre in scale. But if we had to guesstimate how many cubic yards of mulch we produce on average annually, it's probably right around 300,000 yards annually. Maybe more, maybe less, depending. And that's just with the grinder. We've got a fleet of forestry mulchers as well running around, and that's not really a quantifiable amount of mulch that they spit out. Just kind of clears it and leaves the crap scattered everywhere.
So the forestry mulcher, like on skid steers and excavators?
Skid steer, feller bunchers, and then dedicated self-propelled Italian monstrosity called a Prime Tech.
Dang.
So we have a fleet of very unique equipment for the area we are with the growth rate of vegetation, but it keeps us kind of in the eye of everybody else.
That's expensive stuff.
Very. The grinder, I just got a quote for a new one. They jumped up. They're sitting right about 1.2 to 1.25 right now. What excavators are going for, and then you add on the niche attachments after them, and those are usually between 40 and 100. Forestry mulchers, 200, 300 up from there. It's an expensive game with, as you put, they're maintenance intensive. And a lot of people kind of think it's a crude, shouldn't cost what it costs, and you just drop a tree in there and out comes mulch. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
So,
but once you get this equipment, it forms a competitive advantage because, like you said, not many people have the equipment, and you can't just go rent a grinder.
Right. Yeah. I mean, they advertise them for rent online, and then when you start calling, they kind of feel you out, and if they don't know who you are, they're not going to rent it to you. I mean, a lot of times it's easier for them to refer a grinding contractor, help that guy build his business. He'll buy another machine. Everybody's happy. They're not getting a rental unit beat up. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head. You get a definite competitive advantage by owning the unique equipment, because the pool of people they can pull from to bid on these jobs. I mean, when I go to a job walk, very rarely do they have everyone there at the same time, but I can almost guarantee who's bidding on the job and how we're going to stack up in terms of competitiveness on the pricing, the quality, and then you can kind of feel out the customer and figure out what are they looking for. Are they just looking for bottom line, the cheapest, dirtiest, or do they want efficiency, and is there specs that have to be met, stuff like that. And you can usually figure out who's going to get weeded out first. And in all reality, I think I'm bidding against the same 5 people every project.
What kind of projects are you most competitive at?
So very niche. We're most competitive in the ag interface, so orchard removal and ag development, just because we kind of have a strong understanding of the process from start to finish. So we can help that grower, producer, organization get their project streamlined and done faster, because we understand what's going on before us and after us, and we can help implement our procedures to stay out of their way and facilitate things faster versus someone who maybe doesn't quite have the in-depth knowledge of the agriculture, and they just are there kind of in the single track mind to do their job, and screw it, I have to do this, get out of my way, and we're out of here.
Yeah.
So that's really helped us build another competitive advantage.
Yeah, within ag, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the priority is you want to get the previous crop out of the way cleanly so that you can bring the next crop in as quickly as you possibly can, because there's a window that you need to grow the damn thing before it can even produce. So time is really of the essence, and then you're working with seasonality and weather as well.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yeah. So, I mean, an avocado tree, by the time you plant it, you're looking at about 3 to 4 years before you pick any fruit worth sending to market off of it.
Dang.
And we don't consider you're at full peak commercial production until between year 10 and 12. So you're carrying that for a long time.
That's nuts. Because you really have to plan ahead and hope that avocados are selling for a lot of money in 10 years.
For sure. So I'm fortunate enough to have put myself in a position where I ran for a seat on the House Avocado Board. So it's comprised of producers and importers from around the U.S. and internationally, which is super cool. We see all the data from where all the fruit grown globally goes to different markets. We've seen the per capita consumption in the U.S. explode, like from 2.1 pounds per capita to over 8 point something in a short 15 to 16 year cycle. I mean, we've seen growth in that commodity like no other produce category. So and we haven't even reached what we think the ceiling of consumption has been.
Yeah, I feel like avocado toast is only going up from here. What? So you said you're on the avocado board. What the hell is an avocado board?
The House Avocado Board. Correct.
What does that do?
So our whole goal on that board is to increase consumption of avocados in the United States. So I don't want to say all, but most of the health and science information related to avocados and the benefits have been sponsored by the House Avocado Board. We also do a lot of other studies in terms of volumes and data analysis for the commodity. Yeah, it's cool. It's a little dry. It can be a little boring. I'm not going to lie. Board meetings are not my idea of where I thought my career would go, but it's pretty important to donate that time back to an industry that's given so much to me, and hopefully help keep it growing, and get more money per pound.
So are you still involved in the family farming business, or are you completely off on your own in your own contracting world?
So a little bit of both. So we actually ended up merging the contracting business with the farming business about 7 years ago. I kind of realized that the business I was getting into in contracting, it can eat as much money as you can possibly throw at it, and then it'll keep looking for more. My dad was running a small farm management business. It was him. He was working 7 days a week, had a small team of 4 or 5 guys. And he always told me, if you want to take over the business, you got to find your own spot. There's not room for you here right now. So my way of making that spot was merging with the contracting. And then I was maybe stupid enough to start a trucking business with a good buddy of mine about 3 years ago here in California. And that has absolutely been a steep learning curve for both of us. It's been fun, but boy, that's been tough.
Was it?
So, so that's a whole separate
like a trucking business primarily for yourself, but the contracting business, or just trucks for hire for anybody?
So actually, we do zero trucking for our contracting business. Funny enough, we don't haul equipment. All we haul is fresh produce from field to the packing houses, and that's all we do. We're hired out by the people that buy the fruit from the farmer, and we're responsible for getting it out of the field and to wherever they tell us.
What?
So
on the trees that you clear for farming, I'm just hopping around over because I'm so curious. What kind of trees do you typically clear in your area? Is it mostly avocado or is it a lot of nut?
Mostly.
Oh, citrus too.
Actually, no nuts over here. So it's mostly citrus and avocado.
So all the nuts are like Central Valley.
Citrus and avocado. Yeah, our land. I don't want to say our land value is too high, but it kind of is. I mean, the average price per acre over here is running about $100,000 just for bare farmland, upwards from there. And then we have not quite as much flat ground as Central Valley, and that's just the way their cultural practices requires flat ground for harvesting and maintenance. And I mean, we have stuff where stuff's growing on the side of a mountain, and guys have ropes tied off, to pick the fruit and whatnot. So it's a whole different world.
So
over
what
here.
kind of equipment do you typically use to clear the trees?
Excavators, bulldozers, wheel loaders, skid steers with the rates to clean up, anything. Yeah, you got it. Anything. But it's the most common. I mean, it's pretty similar to stuff you'd probably see across the U.S. Just maybe slightly different utilization of the equipment.
When I visited Josh 2 years ago now, maybe, I don't know when it was, he let me clear some orange trees with his excavator. I think it was a 336. It was a 330, 336. Yep. And it was a really, really good time because they're not very hard to knock over. You just kind of grab it, and he has a thumb on there. You just grab the tree and you plop it on the ground, and then he has a loader and comes and scoops them, piles them all up, and then they grind them or burn it, and you're in business. It's pretty simple to clear it's not simple, but
and you really can't mess it up, right?
Yeah. Well,
in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty simple. How are you going to mess it up?
Well, I guess
you're going to not dig the tree out?
Well, what he said was you could potentially, like, shittier contractors will just get the tree out, but then will leave some of the root ball there, and that causes a little bit of a problem down the road.
Yep. Yeah. It just is another step, adds an expense to the landowner, farmer, whatnot. So, I mean, there's ways you can do it messy, sloppy, whatnot, but for the most part, I mean, I had one guy working for me for a little while, and we're always tend to be super busy, and we had some overtime. So I said, hey, you want to work Saturday? He said, yeah, for sure. I said, okay, cool. So we trained him. I said, hey, I'm not going to be here. I'm going out of town, but you're good. You're comfortable. Yeah, I know what to do. So I came back, and like brand new 329 we bought was all just super bitchin', perfect. Engine door smashed in, counterweight scratched up. And I'm like, so what happened? He's like, oh, well, the trees were in the way. I'm like, dude, we're getting paid to take the trees out. You're in a 329. Like, pick the tree up and move it. Well, there's zero excuse here. Like, I don't think this is going to work out, man. Like, come on. There's zero reason that tree was in your way.
It's the only opportunity in which you can just remove all the trees around you. So nothing's in your way anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Zero obstruction. Nothing. Like, move it. You're getting paid to move it. I don't see the problem.
Does the contracting business bid work outside of the farming business, or does it just serve the farming business now that it's merged with it?
No, so we bid work outside the farming business. We've done a lot of, like I said, golf course work. So every so often, high-end country clubs will go through a full golf course renovation. They change elevations, they change slopes, they change the tree lines, they change the sand traps, they change the water features. So we've done a fair amount of that work down in the Los Angeles area. Beverly Hills is probably one of the most kind of weird ones that we popped up at, but that was a cool one. So we bid large projects like that. We bid fire mitigation. We bid waste processing contracts that are paid by the ton for municipalities, waste handlers, county transfer stations, whatnot, private waste handlers. So it's if there's a job that we think we can do, we're going to bid it for sure. There's no reason not to.
The golf course is pretty unique. I grew up on a golf course. Our house backed up to the golf course, which was like our playground. It was sick. Because you had your backyard, but then you had your backyard, which was a whole golf course. And they came through and remodeled the golf course. Yeah. It was years ago now. But that was one of the first steps, is they just came through with an excavator and whacked over all of the enormous pine trees that had been growing for decades, because they were going to more of like a grassy feel, like a tall natural grass, and make it a little bit more Arizona-y rather than, it's this pine tropical oasis in the middle of the desert, which I think is realistic. But that was the first thing they did, was just whack over all the trees. And I guess you have to do something with the trees. Yeah.
Knock everything down.
It's a pretty 100%. Sick business.
Yeah. So that was a really cool project. I have no complaints. I mean, some days I do for sure, but it's unique. It's fun. It's challenging. It's not a lot of people get to do it, and we have some cool toys, and it's kind of some of the stuff you reflect on at the end of the day. Like I was pulling out of the golf course one night, and I like stopped and I had to go back and check something, and it's like, wow, I'm getting paid to just come in here and like tear all this shit up for a living.
Destroy a golf course.
Like, right on. They're paying me for this.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, like how often are you going to get to run your 320 across the green and like take a photo of it and then knock a giant tree down over on it and, you know, drag a tree across it and dug a big borrow pit. It was a fun project. That was probably one of my favorite ones.
Phoenix, there was a golf course getting basically just removed, redeveloped in a commercial property because a certain university is somewhat overextended themselves financially and needs money all the time. And so they were working on the first 9, and then the back 9 was still untouched. So it was just like old golf course. And it was funny. They brought out like a bucket of old golf balls, and you set up on the tee box, and you're just kind of screwing off on a golf course. And you can do whatever you want to the golf course because it's about to get destroyed. So it is like the perfect dude scenario of which you have this whole golf course to mess around on. No one cares. Yep. You can do whatever the hell you please because it's about to get completely destroyed.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we did one project right when COVID hit. Is kind of when a lot of golf courses had to shut down. And they said, shoot, we can do some deferred maintenance. So we got a call from another one down in LA and said, hey, we have this giant drainage channel. It flows 24/7, runs through the middle, and we want to clean it out and reshape it and do all this stuff. Okay, cool. So we went down, we threw a bid in on it. We ended up getting awarded the project. And we showed up to work, and like they thought we were going to come in with like wheelbarrows and shovels and whatnot. And I showed up, I had a 745 rock truck, 320, some skid steers, and like the whole 9 yards. And like I'll never forget, the grounds guys were working, and a 745, just fifth gear, full blast, like I don't know, what was that, like 25, 30 miles an hour or something, just right across the golf course. And I was like, that's sick. Right across the green, like no rules. Just it was pretty sick. Pretty rare opportunity. That's quite a bit of fun.
With all of the equipment and everything. I mean, with the grinder being 1.2 million, is all of that financed? How have you been able to acquire all that equipment from a financial standpoint?
Yeah, so Cat Financial will probably even give my dog a loan to buy a tractor if my dog went in there and like stamped his paw on the paper. It's pretty easy. So Cat Financial has been a huge contributor to us stacking up this equipment. And then a lot of it's just been relationships. You know, I mean, we got a good relationship going with the grinder manufacturer. They offer in-house financing. They're willing to take a chance on us, and they've been great. And then we have a couple other local lenders. So yeah, pretty much everything financed. You know, we don't have buckets of cash to go buy this stuff paid in full on the dot. And you know, why extend yourself to that point anyways? I mean, you'd have to be pretty hefty in the bank account to be able to swing that one. So yeah, we've just leveraged finances and made it happen day by day and take care of our stuff. We have a full-time mechanic in the fleet, and a nice service truck runs around and takes care of everything I break and everyone else. And yeah, the circus keeps
has
going.
Your age been a barrier over the past few years? I mean, starting out when you're 19, that's pretty damn young.
Yeah, so that was a huge one. Obviously, it gets less and less as time goes on. Especially, I have a lot of repeat customers, so kind of once I showed them I'll do the work, they kept giving me a chance. At first, it was a huge barrier. You know, I mean, looking back, I can't necessarily blame them. You know, a 19-year-old kid saying, "Yeah, for sure, I'll take down your orchard and all these, you know, these 58, 120-foot tall eucalyptus trees, and I won't destroy everything." And yeah, this is what it'll cost. But yeah, for sure. I mean, I had one big golf course project come up, and they ended up awarding it to probably my fiercest competitor. And actually, I admire the business the guy has. I mean, he's got 3 or 4 of these grinders, a couple chippers, like just a phenomenal business. He's very good at what he does. And they awarded it to him. They just felt like his experience was better and gave them a little bit of peace of mind. And okay, cool. No worries. I lost. But I was like, you know, to be one of the only 2 people bidding that project, and that's who I'm bidding against, kind of was a cool moment. That it was actually my girlfriend pointed out to me. She's like, yeah, you know, instead of being so down that you lost the project, you should be stoked that you even get to play the game at that level at such a young age. Like if you're playing it at this age, where will you be in 15 years? So that's a pretty good outlook to keep reminding myself of when the age barrier does get in the way. Is, hey, I'm still playing the game and I'm being competitive and growing at an enormous rate.
What does your workforce look like? How many people do you have, and what are their ages typically?
So we have right now we're sitting at 23 people on the payroll. The next youngest guy is 35 years old, so I'm junior to everybody by 6 years at a minimum. And then it just keeps going up from there. We've got a couple guys in their mid to late 30s, a couple in their 40s, quite a few in their 50s, and I think a couple guys are in their 60s. So I'm younger for sure. So I always try to get there before everyone, and if the gate has to get locked, I'll lock the gate on the way out, and try and put that extra effort in, and it's gone a long way. I'm sure some of the guys will say something at night or whatever, but for the most part, we've got a pretty good crew, and we all work together, and we have a saying that no one's too good to do any job here in the company. Doesn't matter if it's greasing a tractor or if it's picking up trash or whatnot. You'll see me walking around the yard picking up nails, and if I walk by a trash, see it, pick it up, grab it. Doesn't matter if it's our yard or a job site. That's what we do. So I think that goes a long way.
There's a lot of young people in the industry that are like, so what do I need to do? And it's really as simple as just working really, really, really hard. Because if you do that, you earn everybody's respect, and then you're in, man. It's not as simple as it seems, because working hard is hard, and doing it consistently is hard. But that's all you have to do is just work hard, and everybody's like, oh, okay, so this kid's okay.
It's hard, but so if you think about it, it's like, what does it consist of? Okay, it consists of waking up at a decent time every morning. You might as well pack your lunch so that you can guarantee that your lunch will never run long. Have all your water, your snacks, your juice, your whatever you need to feel comfortable through the day. Take all that shit to work. All of it. Have it in your car, your truck, whatever. No one's ever going to really seriously laugh at you for showing up with a gallon or 2 gallons of water, right? And then it's doing the work. And I don't expect someone to go 100 miles an hour all day. I'd rather have someone be slow, safe, and consistent than some guy that's going to work really hard, really fast for 20 minutes and then sit there for 30, catch his breath. I really don't think it's as complicated as people say it is. I think it's a lot of people looking for an excuse. I get calls from people all the time. Hey, I want to come work. Cool. Come work. And then, they'll come out for a couple of days, and then, oh, I got to do this at 2:00. And then it's like every day starts to be an excuse. Like, it's not going to work. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, but that's the state of a lot of the industry right now, which is why if you are just consistent and work hard, you stand out almost immediately nowadays. Like, that used to be the norm. That used to be the standard. Now it's not. So if you can make that your standard, now you stand out.
100%, guaranteed. And if you work hard, there is not one company right now anywhere that wouldn't pick you up and treat you well and pay you fairly. And if they don't, there's opportunity right for the picking everywhere. You can go, if you're a qualified person that works hard and cares, you will get a job anywhere.
No,
I don't know.
I don't either. Right now. And I see a lot of people, and if your company sucks and they're treating you like garbage, go somewhere else. Like, it's not that risky right now. Everybody's hiring. Everybody needs help. So just go somewhere else. It's not that simple, but it is that simple.
For sure.
No one
I agree.
Will make fun of you bringing 100%. A gallon or 2 of water, but they probably will make fun of you for eating an avocado on a job site. Not out there.
You'd be surprised. There's days I take half an avocado, and that's
Tennessee. If I ate an avocado on a job site, I'd for sure get shit. Someone gave me shit for. I don't know. I eat well. I eat healthy, and people make fun of me for it. And I'm like, do you understand what you're making fun of me for? You're making fun of me for being healthy. How?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, I get the same thing too. Guys bring. Yeah, guys will they'll run and get a cheeseburger at the gas station or something, right? And they come back and it's like soda, chips, cheeseburger, cookies, and whatnot. And I'll have some chicken and a salad, or some vegetables or something, and a protein, and immediately go, oh, that's how you stay small and skinny. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. It's And the point, where are we going to this? You know, it's like, yeah, that's
Like,
why you're
does
not. I'm sorry. I guess.
does being
Don't know
80
why that's
pounds
not
overweight
connecting there.
help do the job more effectively?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Yeah.
Or like, is your quality of life improved, or like, what's the deal here? 'Cause, like, I feel pretty good, you know. So yeah, no, I eat pretty healthy as well.
It's
So.
pretty interesting what you guys have going on. How far? It's a little ways from Slow, isn't it? It's a little bit of a drive.
We're probably about an hour and a half, yeah, south. Yeah, it's a pretty decent little haul. We don't have anything going on up there right now. We service a pretty large territory. I mean, we've gone as far up as Monterey and as far south as the Mexico border. We usually stay in kind of like a 3-county radius, but we've traveled for good sized projects.
Really,
so,
really,
we've looked at stuff out of state as well. We looked at one in Klamath Falls, Oregon last fall, and we almost had it.
Is the
so
future?
Cool.
Are you guys just, hey, if we can bid it, if we can do it, let's go for it? Is it continuing to grow from here?
I kind of live by the philosophy that if you're not growing, you're dying. So it doesn't mean you know have to buy a new tractor every day, every week, every month, or whatnot. But if you're not in it wholeheartedly to grow and strive for perfection, which will never be achieved, you're always striving to be better, then why are you in the business, right? I mean, it's pretty simple. You cannot afford to have all this equipment and sit there and say, okay, I'm good. I have 2 excavators and a grinder and 3 guys that work for me, and I'm good. Because what you've then done is put a ceiling on yourself, but you put a ceiling on your staff. And it's human nature to strive to want more. So if you're not going to give your guys or gals a place to grow and try to help them grow with you, then they're eventually going to get bored. They're going to leave and go to someone that will give them the opportunity to grow. And that guy will end up eating your lunch in a couple of years, a decade, a couple of months, whatever it may be. So, yeah, I mean, you've always got to be.
You used to be able to get away with not growing, actually, and because people were just happy. Hey, just give me a steady paycheck and I'm good to go. But now the world is so big, people see all of the opportunity out there. So there's always better opportunities. So if they're not getting fed that constant growth, which I think is aligned with human nature quite nicely, they're going to go elsewhere now because they just have more opportunity than they've ever had before. Everything's switched in the past 15, 20 years as media has picked up, as social media has picked up, and that's only accelerating from here. So if you're not growing, if you're not providing endless opportunity as a business, it's just not, it's not going to work very well. You have to grow in this day and age.
No. And if you look at how the tax basis, the government regulations that are on businesses, they essentially force your hand one of 2 ways. You're going to grow every year because you're going to need to buy assets to depreciate and have write-offs, or you are going to pay Uncle Sam a fat check every year in taxes. So what do you want to do? Do you want to buy another skid steer, or do you want to pay Uncle Sam $80,000? I'll buy another tractor for sure. But then once you buy the tractor, now you need to run it. Okay, cool. You're going to hire an operator. Now you need to go find more work. So, I mean, I think it's great. I think it makes sense, but I think that's how it should be. I don't think business was meant to ever stagnate in this environment. You know, I mean, a boutique shop, yeah, sure. It's, you know, probably harder to grow that. But in contracting, yeah, I mean, you're always looking for the next project, the next bigger project. When you have a project, another project. You know, I mean, that's just the nature of the world. So yeah, our goal is to grow in a couple different sectors. I mean, we want to get into our own recycling center, process waste and landscape products, continue land clearing and grow that sector. And who knows where that'll take us. So that's kind of the immediate future is working on some organics recycling centers and keep going from there.
Are California avocados better than Mexico avocados?
So, tough question. My personal belief is yes. However, I think part of that's due to time in transit. I mean, it's fresh produce is always better than produce that's out on a boat or in a truck. I do think that our regulations on farming here are more stringent, which leads to better practices, which is better fruit. So I do believe it's worth a premium for sure.
Noted. All right. Well,
Yeah.
Dude,
I'll send a
I'd
box
eat
your way and you can
those
tell me.
avocados all day long. Yeah, they'd for sure get eaten. Well, cool. Well,
For sure.
thanks for coming on. I'm sorry about again the technical difficulties. These remote podcasts, damn them. But yeah, thanks for making some time, and hopefully I'll be able to get out and see you guys one of these days because I would love to help rip out some trees. That's just a blast.
Yeah, go for it, man. Thanks for having me on the podcast, and we'll be sure to get a box out there in Nashville for you.